And we're back. Welcome back, Matt. All this talk
Hello.
from CES is pretty exciting. How's your week been?
It's been great. Yeah, it's been busy at home, busy chasing the CES news, and um, it's been snowing a little bit here, so a little bit of shoveling here and there. But yeah, it's been good. How about you?
Cool. I'm just sicker than a dog. I've just had the
No.
flu, even though I got the flu shot.
Ah,
Yeah,
that.
it's all those inconsiderate people coming and shaking your hand when they know they're sick.
Oh man, that's the worst. It's like just stay home. Stay
Yeah.
home when you're sick.
You have so many things you can do at home. You can watch Netflix, which
Yeah.
actually the price raised, and we'll talk about that this week in
Yes,
our
it did.
podcast.
Yes,
Um,
it's gonna cost you $2 more.
But they just, I feel like they just did that a couple of years ago. So in
Yeah.
10 years, is it going to be like $20 more?
Well, in Canada, it went up $3, but we'll talk about that when we get there.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I see here you have an article about China landing on the moon.
Yeah, actually, so this happened last week. So China sent up the Chang rover, Chang E4, to the dark side of the moon. So that's kind of exciting. It's gone to the dark side of the moon and it's taking pictures. And it's been a long time since we've returned to the moon. And it's amazing that we were able to put people on the moon back in the 60s, but we haven't been back for such a long time. And it really shows that China's in the space race and that they want to get people on the moon again. So this rover is pretty cool. I mean, it's got all the latest bells and whistles. There's three parts, I believe, of it. So there's the Chang E4 spacecraft that's got the lander. Well, there's the spacecraft, the lander, and the rover. So the lander's got all kinds of uh, tools and gadgets. It's got a radioisotope thermoelectric generator that I don't know how a thermoelectric generator works, but apparently it can power things up. And I would think it's solar, but it's on the dark side of the moon. So I'm not sure how much sunlight it gets. So something I should research. But the mission is for 3 months. So it's got to get enough juice to the rover to last 3 months. And the rover can carry up to 20 kilograms. It's doing real-time video transmission. It can dig, do soil analysis. And the cool thing that came out just today, they said it actually happened on the 7th, but today is when the Chinese news released it. They showed photos of seed sprouting, cotton seeds sprouting on the moon.
No way. That is
Yeah.
really cool.
So apparently that's the first life that has ever happened on the moon.
But
So
it couldn't have been in the moon's soil, right? Like it must have been on the
no.
spaceship. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the rover, or maybe I'm guessing it's in the lander. So like there's the three parts. There's the spacecraft, the lander, and the rover. So I'm guessing it's on in the lander, and then they have this experiment that's this little contained um, biosphere, and it had fruit fly eggs, and it had a few other seeds. It may have had wheat, and it was actually the cotton seeds that started to sprout.
So there's got to be sunlight on the dark side of the moon if it's sprouting, right? Is it just that
Well,
it's dark to us because it's always facing away from us?
there is sunlight, and from what I read, and perhaps our readers or our listeners can correct me on this one, but it sounds like night lasts 2 weeks. So they called it lunar night, but they do get some sunlight there. So also something that I should research a little bit more of. But it doesn't necessarily mean they were harnessing the sun's light for these seeds. I'm guessing it was an ultraviolet light that was built
Oh.
into this experiment. But what's cool is it shows that that life is possible in a controlled environment, a biosphere, and that you can do it on the moon. And this really leads the way to having a lunar base. And
And
then
if you
once you
want to knit a cotton, sweater or whatever on the
that's,
moon, you can do it.
that's right, you want to sell Etsy space mittens from from cotton. I think wool's better. But anyways, that's kind of what they're doing. That's cool. Now, there are some naysayers out there, and I personally don't believe it. I think it truly did happen, but there is a second experiment that is also happening on Earth. And so the Chinese Space Agency is doing the second experiment, and it's identical to the first. And some of the naysayers have said, okay, they showed us a picture, but is it from the experiment on Earth or is it from the experiment on the moon?
Oh.
And there's been no response to that one.
You know what's interesting? Right next to my house, there's NASA JPL. It's the one that does all the, rover Mars stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a chance last year to go tour inside. A buddy of mine works there, and he took me to this place that looks just like Mars.
Oh,
And they have their like fake rover there, and
yeah.
they have a bunch of people with like little remote controls guiding it through, and the soil is red. Everything looks just like Mars. And so if you took a video camera, which I did, and I
Yeah.
videoed just the rover on the soil, it looks like you're on Mars. So maybe
Cool.
China's got something like that with some gray dust that they're
You could make fake rover videos. You should tweet those out and be like,
yeah, I
look, Tech
should.
Time has our own rover on Mars.
And we have our own Instagram page. Go check it out.
Yeah, we should. Is it as cool as the egg? I
Yeah. Hey, I heard you're gonna talk about that egg.
I will. I will.
But before we do, what I really want the Chinese to do is to take the rover that they sent out and to send it where the US supposedly landed and to find those footprints that Neil Armstrong had, because
Yeah,
there's so much controversy once and for all.
whether it
Like,
happened or not.
yeah, like
Yeah.
let's just have them go and verify it, right?
Well, I believe it has been proven time and time and time again, but there will always be conspiracy theorists that it never happened. It's kind of like Elvis isn't dead. Come on, guys. Elvis is dead. Everybody knows it. People walked on the moon. Not only was Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin there, but there were many other astronauts that came after the fact.
No,
Like,
I heard that
yeah.
Elvis died on the day that you were born, right?
No, no, no. That's Nicole. Nicole.
Oh, okay, our sister.
Yes,
Got it.
Nicole is Elvis incarnate. His soul just switched from his body to our sister's.
That would explain why she's a good singer.
Yes, and that sometimes she channels Elvis when she's doing karaoke.
Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit about Apple replacing their iPhone batteries. So I
Yeah.
told the listeners a few weeks ago in our podcast that I was getting excited to switch out the battery on my iPhone. I have an iPhone SE. I bought it 2 years ago. And actually, the batteries held up pretty good, but it got kind of to the point where after about 8 hours, it would start to complain. And I'd
Mm-hmm.
have to start charging it in my car every time I did my commute. And so Apple had this really great incentive where if you brought your phone in and if it was one of the models affected, which mine was, you could replace the battery, which is normally like a $90 thing, for 29 bucks. And so I had it replaced, and it's just like a new phone. It's going to last another 2 years. In my opinion, the iPhone SE, which has the same innards as the iPhone 6S,
Yep.
is fast enough for everything. I mean, it's LG, it's 4G LTE. The processor is fast enough that it can run all the games I want to do.
So you're talking
Um,
about the 10e or the 10XR?
no, no, my phone
Oh,
is
the
the
one that you have.
iPhone SE. Yeah, so I'm just kind of bragging about how I got 2 more years of life out of this, or else I would have had
Yeah.
to purchase the XR, which we can talk
Yeah.
about in a little. I think it's way overpriced. And so, yeah, for 29 bucks, I basically got a new phone for 2 more years. Now, when this originally happened, I kind of figured that, Apple was going to be kicking themselves. And look at what happened to their stock over the past month. It's
Oh,
just
it's
it
yeah.
dropped like terribly.
Yeah, but
Not
you know what?
necessarily.
All tech
uh,
stocks dropped.
yeah, and there was a lot of things affecting the market. However, listen to these numbers. Did you know that Apple replaced 11 million batteries last year? And
Wow.
normally they only replace usually less than a million. So they
Yeah.
replaced 10 million more batteries than they normally would have. Because nobody wants to shell out $100 for a new battery, but are you going to
Yeah.
shell out 29? Sure.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so they lost a ton of money, even from me, and I'm a tech
Yeah,
enthusiast. I
in
love
resales.
new phones. I
Yeah, new
love new
phones.
technology. If you're listening to this or watching this and you have a cool phone you want me to try out, I would love to. I love phones. But if it's $29 and it's going to make it last another 2 years, yes, please.
Absolutely. You know, I did the same thing back when Samsung had swappable batteries. And it is, Dan. It's like having a new phone. It suddenly breathes new life. It seems to work faster, but it really is when the battery doesn't hold a charge for a full day that you really just start hating it. And then when it gets shorter and shorter and shorter, it's more and more frustrating. And so 2 more years, absolutely. Get 2 more years out of that phone and enjoy it. And thank you, Apple. And remember, it all came because of the conspiracy that Apple was slowing down phones so that the batteries would appear to last longer.
That's right. And thank you to that conspiracy theorist. Maybe the
Yeah.
same people that thought that the US never landed on the moon. So I see you have a bunch of notes about your favorite things from CES. Let's give it a
Yes.
wrap up now that the week's over.
All right, I'll try to fly through all of these. So, Engadget has been the official judges at CES for, I think, 3 years now. And these are the categories that they gave awards to. So I'll fly through them. And if you want to specifically talk about a couple of them, then we should and we can. And if some of our viewers or listeners would like us to highlight some of these winners in the future, then let us know. You can put them in the comments below or send us an email or tweet us. So, best accessibility, and this one's really cool. It's called the Samsung Gems H, and it's a lightweight 6-pound exoskeleton. So you can wear it. Not only will it help you walk, but it can also add resistance to certain parts of your body so that it helps with rehabilitation. So if you need to strengthen a certain muscle, especially after it being damaged or hurt, then this exoskeleton can really help out. And I think that's great. And what's neat about this is it doesn't look like vaporware. I mean, it's Samsung, it's a big company. They already have government contracts with hospitals in Korea. So it looks like this thing's for real. So that's cool.
That's awesome. Can you wear pants over it, or does
Yeah.
it always?
No,
Oh, you
under,
can.
well, all the stuff I saw online, of course, people are wearing it over the pants, but
Maybe you
sure,
get
why
some
not?
big baggy jeans, and
Yeah, and you
no one
sound
can
like
tell.
Terminator when you walk in. When you, you come in.
I'll be
Anyways, it
back.
sounds amazing. Like for people who are paraplegics, they can now walk again. And we've had exoskeletons for a while, but this is 6 pounds. That's amazing. Next one. So best startup goes to Nreal, the light. And what it is it looks like Google Glass. They're actual glasses, and they don't look crazy or ridiculous. It's not as big as HoloLens or some of the other ones like Magic Leap. It actually looks like glasses, and they have mixed reality 1080p with high quality lasers that it shoots, and it looks great. So it looks like Nreal most likely will be bought up by one of the big players, and then that technology will be incorporated into something that perhaps you and I will wear in the future. Google Glass was cool, just a little tiny thing.
Hmm.
And Magic Leap looks cool. It's getting smaller, and HoloLens looks cool. It's like a helmet, but soon it will be glasses, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. And that's what
Yeah,
Nreal's doing.
that's really cool.
Best digital health and fitness goes to Triple W for the D3. Now, this is an interesting one. I didn't really think it deserved the award, but you tell me. It tracks bladder levels. So,
I think my brain does a good enough job. Get to
but
the
some people
bathroom.
don't. Right? When you become a senior and your brain stops doing a good enough job, that's why they have Depends and Grampers and all those other things that you wear. So it's kind of like a warning. It's like, oh, your bladder's getting kind of full. Maybe you shouldn't go to the store right now. Like so. So, anyways, and it can tell your phone, oh, your bladder's getting full.
You
So,
know what's interesting about working at the hospital is we have a graveyard for all of the chairs that have been peed on.
oh yeah,
And yes.
gross.
And every week there's probably 3 or 4 in there to get shampooed. And I'll walk into my room and like a bunch of the chairs are gone, and I know what happened.
And you know what happened.
If
So
only
you know
they
what?
had the triple WD3 bladder tracker
That's right. The D3, it's going to be like, warning, you need to go to the bathroom right now.
right now.
Best wearable went to Omron, the Heart Guide. Now, this is cool. It's a watch, but it does blood pressure passively and it does hypertension passively. So
Cool.
remember how we were talking about how the iWatch or what are they? Anyways, how to do the EKG, you got to push a button. This
Yeah.
is all passive, and that's where I'd really like to see these health tools going. Is that if I'm having a heart attack, I don't want to have to push a button to know it. I
Yeah.
would like it to say, by the way, you're having a heart attack or palpitations or something's going on, and possibly contact the authorities or somebody who can help out. So that's the Omron Heart Guide. Best in transportation went to Daimler Freightliner,
Oh, that
and
looks cool. Yeah.
it is cool. But it wasn't, it was kind of surprising to me that this got the award because they call it a level 2 when it comes down to self-driving. So it's got adaptive cruise control, lane assist, auto braking, and hey, all this stuff's already in many luxury cars today. So why did they award it to Daimler? Well, it's the first time it's been in a semi truck like this.
Nice. Well, and they're so
Yeah.
heavy. I mean, it's nice to know that if someone's stopping in front of them and the truck driver doesn't see it, they're gonna stop, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It should stop fishtailing. I mean, there's all kinds of sensors so that if you got to stop quickly and the roads are icy, it's supposed to really be a lot safer. Now, the future of these Freightliners, we already have the Tesla Semi coming out, and I believe Daimler's got a Semi coming out, and there was another one that was recently announced. So, although this is the award that happens this year, I think we're going to see fully autonomous trucks in shortly in the future, like shortly meaning 5 to 10 years. I think it will be common. Well, 10 years commonplace.
That's cool.
That's my prophecy. We'll see if it happens.
Nice.
Best home theater goes to Sennheiser Ambio Soundbar.
I've
Now,
never even heard of them.
Sennheiser?
Mm-mm.
Oh, they are known for like headphones and speakers. They're high end. Now, what this one is, bless you. What this one does is soundbars have tried to get 5.1 surround sound and many have fallen short. So this one apparently really does it. So you don't have to set up speakers all throughout your room. You put this right underneath your TV and you get full surround sound. And it can also upgrade the sound from stereo to 3D. I'm not sure how it does that, but apparently they were very impressed with it at CES.
Cool.
Best connected home product, the Lenovo Smart Clock. Did you see this one, Dan?
No.
Caused a bit of a splash when it first got announced. It's one of the thousands of products that came out with Google Home built into it, or a Google Home. So it's got the fabric on it like Google Home has, and it's an alarm clock. I wasn't too impressed with it when I first saw it because it wasn't like a Google Home with a screen. It was more of an alarm clock that had some Google Home functionality, but all the voice commands still work. But you couldn't really surf the net with it. You couldn't watch videos with it. At least I don't think you
I don't
can.
understand though. Can't you set an alarm on your Google Home?
Sure, you can. And this one actually has the daylight alarm, which is kind of cool right now, where it just sort of slowly brightens up your
Ooh, that
room.
is nice.
Plus, it's neat because it will show your calendar, your appointments. It will
Oh,
tell you
it's got
how
a
long.
screen. Yeah.
It does have a screen. It will tell you about your commute, all kinds of things like that, which are pretty cool and all visual as well as audio if you want it. So it sounds pretty neat and it doesn't have a camera, which is great because it's going to be in your bedroom and you never know who's hacking it,
Well, I
right?
mean, right.
I personally don't care about that stuff because I'm like, if you really want to watch me, go ahead. All right,
Creepy.
best connected home product. Oh, I already did that. Best mobile device. Now this was interesting. The Morphe Juice Pack. So it's a battery pack for iPhones. And what's cool about it is instead of going in the lightning port to charge your phone, it does it wirelessly.
That is
So
really cool.
yeah, so the great thing is it doesn't use up your one jack, and that's the biggest problem with iPhones is you've just got the one jack on the bottom. So if you wanted to listen with your headphones, you need the dongle, but you can't be juicing. So this one looks like it's pretty cool, and it's great for people who have iPhones. Best TV, of course, we talked about this last week. This is the LG OLED TVR. This was the 4K TV that rolls up and
Rolls
down.
up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're
Drop a
asking
quarter in
about the
there.
sound bar.
Yeah.
It has a Dolby Atmos soundbar. Sounds like it's an LG soundbar, so it's not anything special like Sennheiser or not, but that gets built into it. And of course, that one got Best TV. Best gaming went to Alienware 51M. And what's neat about this laptop is it's modular. Everything is completely swappable in the future. Now, what's interesting is most laptops are modular, but you have to get CAD programs and you have to figure out if everything's going to fit just right. Whereas Alienware is making their components all modular, so it future-proofs it. If you buy an Alienware component, which probably will be expensive, or one that's compatible with it, then you're future-proofing this gaming laptop. And it looks great, and I think that's pretty neat.
If Area 51's in the name, I'm buying it.
I'm buying it. I don't
Did I
care.
ever tell you about my friend that claims she worked at Area 51?
No, like
No.
a company called Area 51 or the
No, she
actual
said she
location?
worked at the military base, and
Ooh.
I was like, first of all, why would you tell me that? Because it's top secret.
Yeah.
And then she said it was because she trusted me and that what she did was she was a secretary there and worked on paperwork. So
Oh,
I asked her if she got a hold of any of the paperwork. And she said, "Oh, I can't." And then she got really weird and stopped talking about it.
you should
So
have said,
about
"Are
6
they
years later,
real?"
I brought it up again. She said she never did. So I don't know. Maybe she was just trying to sound cool that night, or
Yeah.
maybe she did.
Or maybe the aliens have taken over her body and they're like, "No, I never did work there. Never." Or that's a robot, not an alien. I was a terrible impersonator of an alien, but I don't
Alien
really know what aliens
Purple.
talk like.
Right? Cylons, frack.
Silence. Yeah. Okay. Most unexpected. So this one didn't go to the bread maker. We did briefly talk about it yesterday, but it went to the Impossible Burger 2.0.
Cool.
And it's a meatless patty. It's grown in a lab and it's soy protein. And everybody's saying this thing tastes like the real deal.
Cool.
Now, I know A&W has had a meatless patty that they keep having on their signs. Come and try this meatless patty, and people say it's pretty good. But apparently, this is the real deal. Tastes just like a burger. So, if any of our listeners have tried it, let us know what you think. Is it a good substitute? I'm also curious to see the health, like fat versus carbs versus proteins. Does it have as much protein?
Apparently, there's no cholesterol in it. I was just reading about it. It sounds like it tastes really good, and it makes it look like it's fatty. Like, you know, when you're
Yeah.
cooking a burger and then the
Sizzle.
fat starts to sizzle,
Yeah.
it looks like it has that. Man, I'm really disappointed they switched to soy protein, though, for a number of reasons. Number one, because soy has been controversial as of late. People think that it might mess up your hormones, especially if you're a man.
Oh,
So you
yeah,
probably don't
that's
want to
not
eat
good.
too many of those.
No, you don't.
Also, I'm allergic to soy, so as a very selfish person, I'm sad that the most popular burger this year is made out of soy.
Yeah, that's not good for you.
No.
So, I'm actually really curious about lab-grown meat, actual meat. There's a startup here in Edmonton that got a whole bunch of money, and they made a partnership with a big firm down in the States, and perhaps I can report on that in a future podcast. But this lab-grown meat is the real thing. It's real meat, but it never lived in an animal. So fascinating. And I'm not sure about the economics, but they want to get the price down per kilogram so it can be competitive with real meat. We'll see how that goes.
As long
Okay.
as it doesn't cause cancer, I'm in.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one. Best sports. And this goes to the Jack's Jocks kettlebell. Now, what blows me away is apparently this kettlebell is adjustable. You can adjust the weight in it. I don't know, Dan, how you change mass in an object.
In this house, we obey the laws of
We obey the laws of physics.
physics,
I don't know how it works.
thermodynamics. That's what that Simpsons quote was.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right, Homer. So I don't know how it works. It's something I want to research and check out because it just doesn't make sense. How do you make something lighter and heavier? I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, so best tablet went to the Dell XPS 13,
Okay.
and the XPS 13 has been showing up at CES for years and keeps winning, and it came up with super slim bezels. They did move the camera last year down below, so then you get the extra big chin issue. But they've moved it now up above, and it's just a beautiful laptop, super lightweight, high-end specs, and it's affordable. So I think that's why it's big. Oh, also it has Dolby Vision HDR
Oh, nice.
as far as its screen.
The
So
color correctioning and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last one goes to best robot drone. And that one went to the Samsung Bot Drone, which is a health robot, and
Oh, nice.
it tracks your sleep. So I don't know how creepy it is for this robot to just be staring at you while you're sleeping.
Can it also shut down the Heathrow Airport on a dime?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. We should talk all about that too. But it can check your blood pressure and your heart rate, and it will also call 911. I would rather have my watch call 911 than have a creepy robot following me around.
I bet though that the police are going to be so over it as soon as all these gadgets are calling 911, and they're
Yeah.
going to come to houses and people are like, "Oh, my heart just was beating a little faster than usual."
Oh, I just put this thing on my dog.
Yeah.
So anyways, those are the awards that Engadget handed out. So some pretty
Very
neat stuff,
cool.
and
Yeah,
that
no,
was the cream of the crop.
that was really exciting. So Netflix is going to raise their prices by 13 to 18%, which I hate. Uh,
Wah.
because when I first started Netflix streaming, it was like $7.99, and now I'm
Yeah.
going to be paying like crazy amounts, like $13 per month, which is almost double, Matt. That's almost double. Not
Mine
quite.
went up to $16 a month,
Really?
but that's 16 Canadian. And I believe we can watch on 4 devices at a time. So we don't have the lowest
Right.
version. We've got the higher one. And if we had a 4K TV, we could stream 4K, which we don't. And I have no desire to replace my TV right now. But yeah,
You're
that's what
telling
we're
me your
paying for.
60-inch TV doesn't do 4K?
Ah, that TV's 10 years old.
What?
There was no 4K back then.
Okay.
Maybe it
But
showed up at CES back then, but yeah, it's a plasma. It's beautiful. It's 1080p. It's got great blacks, and it's heavy and it's huge, and it's mounted on my wall. I'm not
very
taking it down.
cool. You're not going to take it down. Yeah, so the most popular plan is going to go up to $13 from 11. So in the States, that actually offers two high definition streamers. So that could be like one on your tablet and then one on in your family room.
Yeah.
So even at that higher price, it's actually cheaper than HBO, which is like Game of Thrones and stuff, which charges 15 per month. So the extra cash is going to help Netflix invest in more original films, and it has huge heavy debt right now. And Amazon and now Disney's got their new one and CBS
Yep.
All Access. I mean, they have to compete somehow. And their stock just got pummeled this last year. It's starting to go back up, but I mean, like
Mhm.
all tech stocks, they're kind of in the hole, so they had to raise the price. But this marks the fourth time they've raised prices on streaming.
Ah.
So don't
Yeah.
get used to $13. It's going up to 15, I guarantee it. And then
Yeah.
17, and then 19, and pretty soon it'll be more expensive than your cable subscription.
And then we'll all have NVIDIA shields
And we'll
and
all be
watch it
using
for free.
Kodi, and we'll all be pirating again. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
start that on Friday instead of waiting 5 years. So the last hike came late in 2017. Right now, Netflix has 58 million US subscribers, so I mean, it's pretty popular, and a third of them watched The Bird Box. Did you finally watch that?
Oh yeah, yeah, I loved it. I watched it within a few days of it coming out. It's great. It's a lot like The Quiet Place, if you've seen that, which by the way just showed up on Netflix Canada the other day.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, another good movie.
Was it
Um,
though?
yeah.
Weren't you like, why didn't you pick to have your house behind the waterfall instead of in the freaking field where those things could hear you?
Oh no, I haven't seen it
Oh,
yet.
I'm sorry.
I've only
Spoilers.
seen Bird
Yeah,
Box.
sorry.
Yeah. Wah.
Uh, spoiler alert.
Why did you step on that nail? Apparently, the nail in that movie it has like the best supporting actor
Memes and stuff.
award.
Yeah. So now I want to talk a little bit about Huawei.
Yeah, tell
First of
me.
all, did you hear about the Canadian in China being put on death row for drugs this week?
Yeah, that happened just I believe on Monday or yesterday. It could have happened on the weekend. So this guy is by no means an innocent fellow. He's claiming he's innocent, and his lawyer claims that there's not enough evidence to convict him. But he was convicted earlier in China, and I believe in 2016. He was arrested in 2014. So he was convicted to 15 years in jail. And so he was appealing that sentence. And I think it was just bad timing because of course, this is what everybody's talking about is, boy, it sure seems interesting that this Canadian, right when Meng Wanzhou, the CFO from Huawei, gets arrested in Canada, all of a sudden he goes from having 15 years to you're now on death row. And China doesn't mess around, Dan. Like,
No.
if you're on death row in the United States, you're going to be decades until
Yeah.
something happens, and most likely something won't happen.
And
Whereas
it's
in
chill.
China,
Usually they'll just inject you. It's not
yeah,
going to be like, a sword through the heart.
yeah. Well, in China, it can happen very fast. They
Oh,
say it
yeah.
can happen within 7 days of getting approval from the top courts, and so of course he's appealing it. And it could happen really fast. And imagine what that would do to international relations if they execute him. Now, this guy had been arrested in British Columbia, I believe, in 2012. So in 2012, he gets arrested for smuggling drugs and selling drugs. And I think he was on painkillers after breaking his arm and got addicted. And the judge actually said to him, "You're pretty lucky to live in this country." And then what does he do? He goes to China and starts selling
Oh,
drugs.
no. You should have listened to that judge.
Should have listened to that judge. So I'm not saying he's guilty, but things look like there is a pattern here. So, I don't think anybody's really saying he's innocent other than himself and his lawyer. He claims that this criminal organization set him up. But I think what is going on here is China is using his case to kind of poke Canada for arresting Meng Wanzhou.
And I think he should use his $13 a month with his Netflix plan to watch Locked Up Abroad, to
Yeah.
watch all the other people that were bamboozled into smuggling drugs into China and were locked in Chinese prison.
I think he has the worst case situation where he's now on death row. But also here's what's politically loaded about this. Usually when you appeal a sentence, they don't go higher, right? They have to consider perhaps a lesser sentence. And so that's why a lot of people are going, okay, this is politically motivated. No matter what the Chinese government says, it's politically motivated to poke Canada, to put pressure on Canada, and it has absolutely nothing to do with this individual and his situation.
So now I want to talk about the CEO of Huawei.
Yeah,
They
let's do it.
finally came out and said, we do not give China any of the private information from our phones, which, is kind of nice to hear. Let me
But
read
do
you
you
what it
believe
says.
it?
I mean, let's talk about that in a minute. So
All right.
here's what the CEO says. It says, Huawei would never allow China's government to access customer data, even if Beijing requested it, the CEO and founder of the company repeatedly emphasized on Tuesday, amid continued political pressure on the Chinese technology giant. In a rare sit-down with international media, the CEO, whose name is Ren Zhengafei, addressed concerns raised by the U.S. government, which has warned that the company's equipment could allow the Chinese government to have a backdoor into the nation's telecom network. So Ren, speaking in Mandarin, and he did have a translator, told the group that Huawei has never handed data to Beijing. When it comes to cybersecurity and privacy protection, we are committed to be sided with our customers, they say. We will never harm any nation or any individual. So I think that's interesting. Also, another interesting thing that they brought up is that there is no law in China that requires any company to install a mandatory backdoor, which has actually been tried in the US. People have tried to make that a law, especially after the terror attack in San Bernardino. Here's the really weird part, though. The CEO then praises Donald Trump. Hear this.
That is weird.
For President Trump,
no, it's not. He's buttering him up.
I guess, yeah.
And he wants to sell the United States 5G technology. But keep going.
For President Trump as a person, I still believe he's a great president in the sense that he was bold to slash taxes And I think that's conducive for the development of industries in the United States. So the CEO comes out and says that they've never had a backdoor, that they've never given, private data to the government. Do we believe them? Here's some reasons that maybe you don't want to believe them. Because the US has warned us about this company, and so they must have cybersecurity
Not just the
experts.
US. There are 7 countries that have all done research and investigation into this. So Canada, Britain, Australia, um, New Zealand. I'm trying to remember who all 7 are. We went through it in a couple podcasts before, and that organization, all of them warned it. And I think everybody except for Britain and Canada have said they're not going with Huawei for their 5G.
Yeah, there could be a Trojan horse. There could be something there that wasn't quite worded in his language that could still be there. And so, do I trust them? Not really. Do I have anything secret to hide? No. So I'd probably still buy a Huawei phone.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I think Huawei is a great innovator. I love their phones. The cameras they put in them are top notch. I think to me, it comes down to a similar situation such as GPS. And I talked about this last week where the United States had a monopoly on GPS because it was their satellites that were in space. And so China didn't like the fact that they were reliant on American satellites. So they've now sent up their own satellites for GPS. Same with Europe. I think it comes down to the fact of, do you want to have something that is so critical to your infrastructure like 5G, where cars are going to be connected to it, and your pacemakers are going to be connected to it, your watch that's going to say you're having a heart attack is going to be connected to it. Do you want to put that kind of technology in the hands of a company that could be compromised by its government?
Great points. One other interesting rule came here in the United States where the feds cannot force you to unlock your iPhone with a finger or a face now. Where
Mm.
before it was that they couldn't force you to give the passcode. So if you had like a number passcode, they couldn't force you to, but they could like force your fingerprint. And so a California judge has ruled that American cops can't force people to unlock a mobile phone with their face or finger. The ruling goes further to protect people's private lives from government searches than any before and is being hailed as a potentially landmark decision. So previously, US judges had ruled that police were allowed to force unlocked devices like Apple's iPhone with biometrics, such as fingerprints. That was despite the fact that feds weren't permitted to force a suspect to divulge a numeric passcode. But according to the ruling uncovered by Forbes, all logins are equal. And so, therefore, fingerprints, face recognition, none of them can be forced. That's not to say that there won't be a dirty cop that won't point it at your face.
And be like, boop.
Zip.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it's great that they can't force you. And I think that's great for security issues and privacy concerns. But that doesn't mean they're not going to ask you, and it doesn't mean they're not going to put pressure on you over that. So I know a
Well,
lot of issues at the border between Canada and the US have come up as Canadians have crossed the border and they want them to unlock their phones and look for marijuana and pot posts and things like that.
really?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. With the Miranda rights, you have the right to remain silent when you're arrested. So I think you should equally have the right to not have your phone's information to be displayed to
It's the
someone
same
that's,
thing. Your phone
yeah.
needs to remain silent
And so I think we've
until a
all watched
subpoena.
enough episodes of Law and
Yeah.
Order that if we ever get taken to a cop station, whether we're arrested or not,
Yeah.
you don't talk about anything until your lawyer's in the room,
I
right?
want my phone call.
And so you don't give your phone to a cop no matter what. And also you don't talk to a cop without a lawyer.
Yeah.
Duh, right?
Yep. Yeah, and they'll need a warrant to be able to unlock it. But once they have a warrant, they should be able to unlock it. But I still don't think they can force you to stare at it or do your fingerprint or
Exactly, which you shouldn't
yeah.
allow them to because that's within your rights.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got 2 really short stories that I'd like to cover before we sign off. And the first one is Eugene the Egg. Have you heard of Eugene the Egg?
I actually did, but I don't know too much about it other than it's very popular.
Yeah, so it's just a picture of an egg.
It's not even Easter.
No, it's just a plain brown egg. And it started out to try to become the most popular picture on Instagram. So before Eugene showed up, Kylie Jenner had the most popular picture, and it had 18.5 million likes. And it was a picture of her finely manicured thumb being held by a baby. And it was cute and adorable. And I looked at it and I went, ah, but I didn't click like. So I wasn't one of those 18.5 million likes. But Eugene the egg is just an egg. And I think what it's doing is it's mocking the popularity of Instagram and people posting and trying to get likes. Like, this egg is just an egg. It's not making money. It's not selling products like other celebrities. Kylie Jenner's one of the wealthiest people under, how old is she? Like 21, 22, something like that.
She's young.
She's a billionaire from what I heard last.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's fighting that stereotypical Instagram sheeple followers. Yeah. So I think it's great. So it's got 42 million likes.
Nice.
So more than doubled Kylie Jenner's likes. And it has 6.3 million followers. Now, I believe Kylie Jenner has like 8.4 million followers, something like that. So it hasn't passed her there, but it's coming close. And I guess Kylie Jenner also tweeted out a picture of her holding an egg and like smashing it on the ground. So, she's got a good sense of humor and she's playing it up. But and my son, my 16-year-old, was the one who actually showed me this Instagram post on Sunday, and he's like, check out this egg, it's beat Kylie Jenner. And I was like, wow, okay, that's cool. All right, the leak. Let's get into the leaks. It's been a while since we've had some. The OnePlus 7 was leaked, and it shows that one of the versions of the OnePlus 7 could be notchless and have a sliding camera. So there was a picture that showed two cameras or two phones, and what was amazing is the bezels on these phones were virtually non-existent. Cool. The side bezels, the bottom bezels, even the top bezels. One of them had a small teardrop-like notch, very similar to the 6T that OnePlus had that was just released in the fall, but it's smaller than that one. And so if I had to have a notch, that little teardrop or the one that Samsung's putting out, like the
Samsung one.
Yeah, where it's just a little circle, kind of looks pretty cool too. But what's also neat is the phone next to it had 0 bezels. 0. Right
How did
above.
It take selfies?
Well, it had a big chunky case on top of it.
Oh.
And the top of the case looked like it had space for a slider. So the phone would slide up and have like a camera and some sensors, and then it would take the picture and then it would slide back down.
Cool.
So truly bezel-less. There is other phones that have had sliders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I believe Huawei put one out where it had like a big chunky camera that was mechanically like zzz, and people were worried about the motors inside. Oppo, which is owned by the same company as OnePlus, put one out. And so this looks like it's the same technology as what Oppo had. So it looks pretty cool, but man, those are gorgeous screens with barely any bezels.
The OnePlus 7 could be a new phone that would be exciting to get, I think.
Yeah.
I'm always rooting for them. I like that company.
Yeah, well, they're also Chinese. Are you worried about it? I personally am not. I think the phones are a great idea. I like to see competition. Like I said earlier, I'm a little bit more concerned about 5G because that's going to be our infrastructure, not necessarily the phones that we're holding.
Right.
But I always root for OnePlus. I've bought multiple phones from OnePlus. I think they're great.
Awesome, Matt. Hey, that's really cool. Well, that comes to the end of our podcast this week. Hey, if you want to hear something or if you have a topic you want to bring up, just let us know in a comment below, or send us an email or tweet us. And it's great to hear from you. And if you liked what you heard today, please give us 5 stars on the iTunes store. And subscribe. Yes,
if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, and also subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.